We will talk about today middle class ambitions, messy negotiations, valuation discipline, and what it really takes to be together in trenches when things don't go as per plan. Welcome to Zero to Scale, a show where we go behind the fundraising headlines and sit in on the real conversation between founders and their early backers. Today, we are going to talk about what it takes to build a cybersecurity company in India for the world. With me in studio are Pankit Desai, co-founder CEO Sequretek, and Amara Partners Piyush Soonee, who backed them in their journey when he was with Omidyar Network India. Welcome, gentlemen, to Zero to Scale, and thank you for making the time today.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
us.
having us here.
Okay. Pankit, I want to, talk about your journey a little bit in your early days and how the idea of Sequretek came about. So I know that it's not your first big career leap.
Yeah.
I've known you to move cities, continents also actually. So tell me, where does this appetite come from where you have to completely uproot yourself, go in a new place, start all over again, and then obviously do wonders as you've been doing? So talk to me about your upbringing and this whole feeling or appetite of uprooting yourself.
I never thought about it that way. I guess it's like when you play cricket, you respond to how the balls come, and most of my life has been around that.
Mhm.
But I've never shied away from uh, making a decision that seems good enough.
Okay.
I never look to dot all the I's and cross all the T's, right? And so long as it met some basic benchmarks, it was okay. Whether it meant changing across cities and changing companies or changing continents, a great part of it has been my family, kind of never ever questioning. I don't know if I was on the other side, what I would have done, because it was my decisions always taking a decision to move from Ahmedabad to Mumbai to Bangalore to Chennai to Delhi, and then all over the US, and then uprooting and coming back. But at that point of time, that decision felt good enough. And though I come from a middle class background, relatively conservative, my parents stayed in the same goddamn sitting for so long. But I guess maybe they let me do whatever I wanted to do in my growing up process, including which school to go to, which college, what subject. And that freedom instilled that confidence in me that you could do whatever you
I
want.
can do it all over again.
Yeah.
And I think that's the specialty about middle class upbringing also, because I also come from that sort of a background.
Yeah.
It really gives you the options because your life is not planned for you. It's not laid out for you, you know. So I like that, and I think a lot of people will also relate to this, that your background does not matter. The choices you make and where you sort of take yourself really defines you. But Piyush, with you, I want to understand your background as well. Engineering to Cisco to VC to now private equity. So when was this moment, or why do you think it was the right time for you to evolve yourself into an investor profile and back Indian founders? And while you're at it, talk about Amara. I believe you guys are already in the green shoe.
Yes.
So talk to us about that, but first start with your journey.
Absolutely. I want to borrow a line from Pankit's that you respond to balls as they come, right? So looking back, there is a strong narrative why I did what, but in the heat of things, you are picking the best option, which looks visible then. And you said middle class upbringing is not templatized, it is. So we had three choices. You were either an engineer or a doctor, or if you were a black sheep, a CA or a lawyer, God forbid, right? So that's how I started my career, became an engineer, joined Cisco because it was fun. I was thankfully not a black sheep. And joined Cisco, did coding for a while, and realized that the business side of things was more calling to my Marwadi blood than the tech side of things. Pursued my MBA. That too was absolutely chance. I met with an accident with my left arm was fractured and I didn't have anything better to do. Gave CAT, got through IMA and said that probably not a smart idea to let that go.
How many people can say that? I just gave CAT, got into IMA.
Yeah, so that's how I sort of went into it, but life throws googlies, right? The year I passed out was when the great financial crisis hit.
Okay.
I was doing bond trading, then moved to infra advisory. So the good news was expectations were removed, and you take the best option there, learn and thrive in that. So went down the cap table from bonds to infra to mid market to early stage, and realized that founders like Pankit, who are not your typical venture entrepreneurs, they are promoters, and I'll come to that nuance a little later. I enjoyed working with them, which is how this Amara Partners idea came about. This is the entire team from Mahindra Partners. We all spun out again and set this up.
Yeah.
In the middle of Green Shoe, the tagline of the fund is we back boring cash flow positive businesses which are generationally owned. So a nice auto comp or a packaging business or a lending business is lovely to see.
Right.
Back 5-10 such businesses, sleep well at night, compound capital patiently. That's the idea. And yes, we are in a green shoe. Thankfully, we've been backed by some of the largest names in the country
Yeah.
who know how to build large businesses and therefore are patient with us when we back founders who do.
Yeah. We need more investors who will back boring founders with cash
Yes.
flow, because that's really the spine of the whole ecosystem. That's true. So, Pankit, take us back a little bit in time to around 2013, 2014. I'm talking about. I think at this point, Rolta is something you have phased yourself out of and returned to India. And this is where the turning point happens, And what is that turning point where you told yourself, I am done building value for others. Now I'm going to build for myself.
Yeah.
So what is that moment? Can you...
So let me just rewind a bit before that
Huh.
12-13 moment. So I had a cushy job with Wipro,
Yeah.
doing reasonably well. And my ex-boss in Wipro joins this mid-size IT services company called as IntelliGroup, not doing very well. And he offers me a role for global sales. And like I said last time, good enough. So I said yes. And there's so many folks from Wipro said, because that company was not doing well, they had been delisted, their numbers were not good, cash flow was a problem. So I was basically told that you may not even get your salary, and why are you going there?
You like messy situations?
No, I just trusted the guy. So by the guy who offered me, I trusted him.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, if he has taken a decision, then I'll hitch the ride with him and we'll figure out how to
Yeah.
kind of come out. But in the process, and again, we had a great run, 5 years, we turned the company around, sold it to NTT Data. But I saw in that process that the private equity that was safe and people capital would put in about 15 million, walked away with 100 million in 5 years. And for an IT services company, for almost a 7x return, I think. And yeah, that was their money, but a lot of sweat and blood was ours.
Correct.
And we made some money, but not good enough. That was not good enough. So that was the first trigger, so to say, that there is an opportunity where if you really can control the destiny of what you're trying to build, and if you're backing it all the way, then you may be able to create much more than just what a job could offer.
Right.
Anyway, I came back to India, joined Rolta. By that time, 12, 13, the startup ecosystem in India had started coming in, right?
Yeah.
And everywhere you'd go, you'll hear the Flipkart had just Snapdeal was around. A lot of stories were going around.
Yeah.
I remember Anand and I going to a BSc event with NASCOM, I think it was in BSc, and talking about startups and all of that. And everyone's in 20s and we were in their 40s. So our question was, what, maybe we are completely out of place for what this is. But I guess the career points that we were in at that point of time, it kind of felt more of the same. We were doing, other than the size of the deals or the geography, nothing else had changed. For the last 20 years, I was doing the exact same thing and was doing it for someone else. So you kind of feel that whatever I had to see potentially has been done. But beyond this, another 20 years, it's going to be the same. And you had a little bit of financial cushion that gives you that leap of faith that one can take. Kids were of an age where I could take a risk for a few years and nothing could potentially hamper their lifestyle. So I guess it just kind of lined up well. And then Anand, because of his security background, walked me through what the potential upside of this industry was.
Right.
And mind you, I had never done security in the 20 years that I was in that tech business. I had no idea what security was. Antivirus is all I knew about security. But I guess when things have to line up, they do line up.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it happened.
I know that we've also spoken that how when an entrepreneur is in their, let's say, late 30s or even early 40s, you have done a little bit of everything career-wise, and now you have a better view of things. You can actually say that this is a risk which is a calculated one, and it will not backfire so much. And like you said, it all was planning, whether it's lifestyle, whether it is having some kind of savings aside kind of a thing. So yeah, I completely understand, and I want to now bring you into present day and talk about the biggest pain point that Securetech set out to solve. I know for a fact that how MSMEs in India really need to be, aware.
Yeah.
And I know that you feel for it also, that, okay, banks and all are still regulated and they have to do. Now, these guys are getting digitally literate fast, but they do not necessarily understand the cybersecurity piece of it. So when you and Anand, like you said, he walked you through the whole thing, what is the pain points, specific pain points, Anand and you spend time discussing that if we are doing SecureTech, what is it going to do for the MSMEs?
People who understand this complicated 3-letter acronyms and will scare you with a lot of doomsday scenarios. And you go to an MSME, a founder or a promoter, and you really scare the shit out of them. And then they end up buying something without really understanding what it means to them. May not be in their best interest. And you will find there was a study done a while back, but I'm sure it's still relevant now. Roughly 70% of the products that companies buy, specifically in MSME, have an overlap with each other.
Yeah.
Which basically means that you're buying products that you may have not needed because you already had something, may not have have every single feature that you needed,
Correct,
but was good enough.
Your operations and business bandwidth may not even demand it.
Demand that.
Correct.
So but because you're putting a fear of God in someone, you'll end up buying it, and then you sit to regret. So we felt that maybe it's time to kind of take a step back and relook at how this problem was getting addressed. So can we ask some fundamental questions? Like for a promoter, how important is your brand reputation? And it is important for everyone, but if it's a neighborhood pawn shop, you don't care if your POS system goes down. It doesn't matter, right? So brand reputation means different thing to different people.
Correct.
How important is business continuity? If you're completely automated versus partially automated, business continuity is okay. How important is compliance? Are you in a compliance-centric industry, right? And what is the last part is what is critical to you? Money, obviously important, but IP or anything else. So if you can answer those 4 questions for yourself, then decide to respond to those 4, where and how I should spend, right? That's a risk-driven approach versus a tech approach. So that was a thesis which we thought about. So everything that we have done in this last 12 plus years is to answer that fundamental question from a CEO's point of view. And now, other than being a CEO, we also understand when we take a decision, what is it in the back of our minds?
Correct.
So if I was to go back and have that conversation with a manufacturing company CEO or a pharma company CEO, let me try and answer that question from their perspective. And everything that we do from a tech, whether it is the combining of technologies, the pricing philosophy, the operational philosophy, and the other part that we have done is that most companies will sell the product and walk away. We said we'll give the product, platform, and people. So we will run the tech for you. You just focus on your business. We run the tech for you. So that has been the thesis, and across this last few years, that's what we continued with.
And it has worked well.
Yes.
I think it's a very unique cybersecurity approach. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And look, I mean, when we sort of met them, we would have scanned a lot of the companies in the marketplace, and there were some with brilliant gross margins, absolutely effortless GTM. But one thing we realized was that the thesis behind our investing in cybersecurity was to safeguard the next $500 million in India.
Right.
People who need that help, including MSME, not individuals only.
Right.
And this is where their approach, which might not have been ideal for most venture sort of backers, was absolutely lovely for us. The fact that it was a handled approach, what was an apparent challenge is the business model, was the moat we saw, was the reason we invested. That today you've got top class products available, expensive, cheap, that's a different point, but it's there for the taking. But average promoter doesn't know where to start. They do not know what to take. They get missold. They need someone who can hold their hand and put that thing down and sort of deliver 90% for 50% cost, which is what Securetech was doing. And I have to give you an anecdote. When we launched our fund, we ended up going with them for our cybersecurity needs because this was absolute bang for the buck, exactly what the Indian promoter needed, right?
Right.
And that was the reason why we ended up backing them. This was absolutely a point solution for Indian MSME.
Okay, so actually that was my follow-up. So see if you can elaborate.
Sure.
Because I know that you would have looked at many cybersecurity
Yeah.
companies which you spoke about. What exactly, not about Pankit, we are not yet talking about him.
Yeah.
What about Securetek's business DNA or the kind of offerings that they, took you through really prompted you like, okay, this is the company out of the many cybersecurity companies I've seen.
Yeah.
We want to back.
Absolutely.
So can you break that
Yeah,
down
yeah.
further?
So, look, I mean, how do we take signals? I mean, we are not cybersecurity experts. I mean, they know it way better than us.
Correct.
And if you're on the other side of the table from them, we need to be looking at signals outside of the product itself. So, one was the kind of customers they had, how emphatic they were in terms of espousing Securetech to their other peers, right? I mean, we met a lady who led a banking association and she was the champion. And when your customers converted like that, you know that the product's going to fly off the shelf. I mean, you need to sell, but it's selling itself, right?
Yeah.
Second is the churn in the customers. Are they happy? You can sell once, but the fact that they renew again and again, it's visible, right?
Correct.
They have one of the largest Indian financial institutions as a large customer.
Right.
We referenced and they came out that, look, these guys are perfect at what they do.
Wow.
So you don't have to be cutting edge. You have to be the right solution in the right way. And
Yeah.
all those things sort of help.
And like you said, also support the customer in the journey, not just
Absolutely.
sell the product,
Yes.
but also run it for them.
Yeah.
Got it. Pankit, we spoke about GTM right now, Piyush touched upon it, but I want to come from your lens and understand what was the very first version of Securetech, like on day one when you were like, okay, these are the range of things that we are going to do, or how quickly did you see the signs of GTM and the product market fit?
We were very clear that we wanted to build our own platforms,
Huh.
but we also knew it's going to take us a while to get it going.
Okay.
And unfortunately, India is not known either for product or specifically for security products. So getting someone to trust you or the new company is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
There weren't any path bearers that we could follow, right? So there wasn't anyone that you could say, okay, these guys have done it, so we can do it. So good bad of being one of the early ones is that you got to chart your own career. But what happened is we felt that, okay, more in case of Anand than mine, is that he had some relationships from his earlier security life.
Yeah.
So we reached out to a few folks and said, you know what, we are going down this journey. So even before we started the company, we started talking to them. This was sometime in mid 2013 when we started talking to people. And this is the idea. This is what we want to do. This is the time it's going to take us to get that idea to fruition. A lot of them came back and said, okay, we are willing to give you our logo, right? And you can use our logo. Do us a small gig here and there, and we'll give you an order. So HDFC Bank, CRISIL, HDFC Limited, DMart, a lot of these guys were willing to lend the logo. And what we were able to do is create a set of service offerings around the products that we were planning to come out with.
Okay.
So it allowed us two things. One, obviously, we had the names and some money to flow in. But more importantly, we understood how these technologies are currently working in an environment. So that was great intel for our products that we were going to come out with. So when we went back a couple of years later, as capabilities came out, it was relatively easier to go back and say, you know what, we've been only supporting you. We've seen these gaps.
Right.
This is how we will kind of address that problem statement for you. And if you already have a right to play in a customer because you have an existing relationship, the transition becomes relatively easier. We could have chosen, say, we'll be in the labs making the product. 2 years later, we'll go and talk about it. Those relationships that we had would have become 2 years old. And if you're not meeting someone that often, it takes a while to restart it. And two, you don't know whether the product that you come out with is what the market wants. Here, this is where you keep talking to the customers, keep exchanging ideas, keep telling them what you're doing, what your alpha looks like, what your beta looks like, this feature, that feature. So a tacit buying is what we say. It's called like the IKEA effect, if you've heard that, right? So why IKEA products do well? Because you make the product and you assembled it. So however ugly it is, you like it, right? So that's how it is. So
yeah. Also, it's very interesting that when you started, the early days was mostly about the product, like the access governance and EDR and all. And over the years, we have witnessed it, how Securetech has transitioned product plus services, your Percept CTM,
Yeah.
which is just recently this thing. So now you also have intel to give to the customer.
Yes.
Now you also have a lot of data to provide them with that, what is the gap. And so talk to us a little bit about that, this whole transition, because product market fit हो गया, गो टू मार्केट भी हो गया, बट अब गो टू मार्केट में आप आगे कैसे ग्रो कर रहे हो, दैट वे. सो आई एम टॉक टू अस अबाउट द ट्रांजिशन.
Yeah. So if you look at what we did originally, most of our offerings were in the defense in depth or the narrower, they were solving a narrow problem. While it was important, uh, if you had to really be relevant to our customers, we had to be as broad based as possible.
Okay.
Which basically means that if customer wakes up tomorrow and thinks about a security challenge that he or she is facing, we have to be the one who calls. If I'm only doing narrow, then it's only the challenge in the narrow that they would remember us for. So, and I think COVID helped us a lot. So this narrow part was the 2019-ish. 2020, as we all went back to drawing board to rethink what these technologies were meaning to us.
Right.
And as data centers moved to cloud, people went to work from home, the complete threat profiles changed, which allowed us to rethink about this whole federated landscape and the overall challenge that the federated landscape is bringing to table. That's when the XDR SIEM came out of us. So 2021 is when we launched it. So about a year and a half after kind of going into it. The defense in depth gave us a lot of ML capability. We were able to transition it to the XDR SIEM. As you start building more capabilities, you start realizing that there are gaps that are being created because of the siloed approach of technologies. So CTEM, the continuous threat exposure management, solves that problem. It sits on top of a complete enterprise tech stack, and you're able to then understand for every asset the risk, whether it is threat or vulnerability, misconfiguration, identity, and so on and so forth. So trying to be relevant to the customer as customers' landscape changes is how we have thought about security.
And how threat actors also become sharper. They are using AI to attack us, actually. Piyush, going back to your sort of first meeting with Pankit, and now we can talk about Pankit, the founder. So, when did Securetech first come onto your radar? And then let's talk about, you said you want to differentiate and give us a nuance about Pankit the founder and Pankit the friend. So let's talk about these two.
I want to hear that.
Yeah.
I
mean, this is behind the scenes from a deal which closed a while ago. But look, I mean, at Umedear, when we pick a trend, we tend to be early to it, and we would map it completely. So we knew each operator. And like Pankit correctly said, India was never really known for cybersecurity.
Right.
The talent, the number of players, the ones who were institutional grade were very few. So we knew pretty much who all the operators were, some 20, 30 names, of which we knew maybe 10 would survive in the long run. That cohort, there's been new names since. And we were tracking pretty much everyone. And we would use any approach to reach out to the right folks, could be their lenders, their investors, customers. And I have to tell you, Securetech was the longest deal to close for us by a long shot. I was going through my past messages, a year and a half, right? And normally it's about 3 months to 6 months. That's a testament to how thorough a promoter Pankit is and how he made us sweat for each term, right? And I mean, it was a lovely chat. I mean, you like Pankit mentioned earlier, you see a bunch of 20-year-olds, people who are bright, energetic, and have a fire in them. This was a slow burning fire where they had seen enough, where they knew what they were building. They were deliberate in their approach. They weren't trying to break things and move fast. They were trying to do the right thing deliberately, right? And the entire negotiation, the discussion reflected that. They weren't ever in a hurry to close. They were always very, very clear about things. And that was a lovely journey and sort of rekindled my passion for promoters than entrepreneurs. And I could say in some part resulted in us sort of doing Amara Partners again.
No, because the thing about him, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. He is somebody who will not go out to raise just because he's running out of cash. There's a working capital runway, there's a mapping and calculation done. That raise is for further propelling the company, into a faster trajectory, which I think is the right approach also for the founders, which I need to learn from you as well, so that I learn how to raise. All right. So, Pankit, talking about the customer sign-up journey, what was the approach that you and Anand took? Was it like, let's go after the MSMEs first, sign one at a time, or let's go out go after those big logos that we spoke about, hire customers who have, higher capacity to pay as well. Because as a new company, you need that revenue coming in. So what was your approach at that time?
So there is this, I mean, you need dal roti and then you need the ice creams and the cakes also.
The
right?
paneer with it.
Paneer, right? So while you do transactional with the MSMEs, we were very clear that we wanted big logos because they also give you a vote of confidence in the market.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say if I were to go after a cooperative bank and if I say I have Axis Bank or an NPC as my customer, the issue of credibility doesn't come up.
Right.
Right. And sometimes what happens is our stories may go against us because when I say that I'm reducing the cost of ownership, I'm combining features, it should not result into a question that am I giving you a substandard capability?
Yeah.
Just because you cannot pay, am I giving you an inferior product? But if I say that, hey, these large banks, these large insurance companies, these large retail houses are using me,
Right.
then the question of capability is not there. I've chosen not to play in that segment versus I am not able to play and therefore I'm servicing you are two different ways to look at the same thing.
Correct.
And that was our thesis. So we'll go after these big logos, we will get them, but our bulk of our business will be the MSMEs. So maybe revenue wise, they may still be higher, the large enterprises, but my 90% customers will be true and blue MSMEs.
Wow. Is that a tough segment to service?
Not really. It is a tough segment to
Convince.
I mean, there is a pricing pressure, right?
Of course.
Right. So you have to be very nimble in the way you create your offerings. Otherwise, you'll quickly get out of steam. That keeps you honest.
Interesting. We just a few minutes ago spoke about that how India was never known for building a product tech company and cybersecurity to bilkul hi nahi. In that time, you said you're tracking 20 companies. What gave you the confidence that this is the right company to back? Yes, the negotiations went on for long. The product, you understood the customer journey that they have taken. But was there anything else apart from it that made you think that out of the 20 companies, this is one company I want to back?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the journey itself. The fact that they've gone after a segment which Pankit was polite enough to say is not difficult to sell to, but it is. And the fact is that is your moat. We had some other cybersecurity companies in our portfolio, but they went your typical SaaS model with India being a small part, bulk of it coming from outside. But getting into the MSME sort of ecosystem, selling in a very difficult environment, price sensitive, high touch, the Indian customer spoiled, and that would show in your gross margins, right? So taking those difficult calls, but how does it pay off? It doesn't pay off in your margins, it pays off in your durability of the business, right? The fact that you can sort of scale with the customer. And we knew that, look, I mean, there's not going to be one cybersecurity company solving the entire problem for India MSME, right? You need to take multiple approaches for consumers, MSMEs, for BFSI institutions separately. They were absolutely well suited to the segment they were catering to, with an ability to become a platform and not necessarily remain a product, right? So what Pankit had referred to as a single solution versus being wider, because like a doctor, you don't want necessarily only an expert. You want someone who's looking out for you, may not be charging you for that at the moment, but knows where will you be vulnerable going forward. And they showed all the signs. The fact that they were from a ecosystem which was similar, institutional tech sales plus cybersecurity. This was a team we knew could land the opportunity as well. That when the time came to exit, they would be the ones who'll be able to take it to an exit, rather than an upstart who would figure out their way. Right? So many small things ended up in building conviction.
I think they make all the difference because you need clarity in the founder's vision that, okay, he started it out like that. Where is he going to take it and things like that. So, interestingly, I now want to know, what is your day-to-day working relationship with Piyush? Is it a very structured? Is it like a boardroom catch-up? Is it late-night calls? What is the chemistry between the both of you?
When the deal happened, it was late-night calls. Some not very good, some not very good calls. But I guess that's the nature of the beast. But one thing about him is that he's very calm in our opinion. So I thought I was calm, but
you are no.
But things get to especially when it's legal and you kind of feel handicapped. But he helped us navigate. See, so we've been around the block, right? So we had done a couple of raises. So we had some expectations. they obviously do a lot of deals, so they have
Yeah.
some expectations.
Yeah.
And getting them to merge is something I think I credit him, because he was able to move the meter. And that gave me a comfort saying, see, while we may be everything else, but in that transaction, we're on the opposite sides. One way to remember that, right? He has to take care of his interests, I will take care of mine. But for him to be able to just come a little bit further and give you that hand, to me, it meant a lot.
Yeah.
And that's the company, that's the fund that I would like to work. And I'm sure in Amara, he must be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Because that's him as an individual. In fact, I did tell him later on that we had a competing term sheet then already from a very large sovereign backed fund. But I just liked the way, and there was slightly better valuation also that they were giving than what we had from OM. But this is like a marriage, right? So
Yeah.
you get good money, but if you're going to get
Yeah.
screwed later on, then it's not
Yeah.
worth any money,
Yeah.
right? So I would rather have a partner who can be with me through the rest of the journey.
Correct. You know what, Pankit? Because you said that he's the calm and the patient, I think I should have picked up the hint. Because for 1.5 years,
Yeah.
he was negotiating with you. So, Piyush, yes, you met them first as a prospective investor, a financial investor. But I want to talk about you here and understand how, that relationship has changed over the years. And what do you think you brought to the table? Because he spoke about another fund, in the fray, and he still was like, no, I want to be with him and Omidyar, of course. So what do you think you guys brought to the table and sort of outsmarted the other one?
Absolutely. So look, it was a year and a half journey, and the good news is that you start off in the dating phase where you're showing metrics. We're talking about a track record, and everyone's excited. Then you get into the data, and then there are obviously surprises there because you're assuming things,
Yeah.
and then you see the reality. There's a clash of that. And over time, once you have small conflicts and bigger conflicts as you negotiate, and there are some terms which promoters always balk at, right? If I'm going to challenge the promoter and tell them that, look, what happens when you do a fraud in the company, they want to take it negatively, right? And there'll be a conversation, right?
And there is no nice way to say
There is no
something.
nice way. So my philosophy there is rip the band-aid off and tell them directly that, look, nothing to do with you as an individual, but what happens in this kind of a scenario, right? And you slowly sort of start building confidence and comfort. And the best way to do that is to spend time together. And thankfully, our deal was long enough that we had enough time to build comfort together. So towards the end, because they've seen you sort of live up to promises, to have seen you navigate difficult situations, there's a lot more comfort which builds out. And especially if you've taken all the bitter medicine early, the journey post that becomes very, very smooth, right? So that's one. But in terms of differentiation, let me tell you, we are in the worst business of all, selling a commodity which is as commodity as it can be, capital. There is no difference. So the people, the track record, the background becomes all the more important. The fund we invested from had a very strong set of experts on cybersecurity, some investments in, and therefore ability to cross work with peers becomes clearer. The fact that we would not be unfair or we would not try to take tactical advantage shows that you're going to be a long-term partner. So you just behave like a good human, do this repeatedly, bend over backwards to help out in any way you can, whether it's customer intros or referencing or anything else, right? Get in the trenches with the promoter.
Basically,
and that's how
yeah.
we see value being offered beyond capital and valuation.
Yeah. And I think it makes the difference that
Yes,
we're
it does.
talking about. You brought up a conflict. So I want to go there and understand that when conflict happens, and conflict is not necessarily something a bad thing, it could be a difference of opinion or disagreement between founders and investors. So what is, first of all, your philosophy on handling disagreement? Because investor is an important stakeholder.
Best way to do it is, and that is true with any conflict, is to try and get a perspective of where this is coming from.
Okay.
As you rightly said, right? There is, unless it is a personal thing, then you keep this aside. And I guess we deal with professionals, so that element is not there. It is a professional point of view, which results into a difficult conversation. And I always felt that there is always a middle path, right? So if you start with a point of view saying, hey, Piyush, I understand where you're coming from. Let's the same issue with the fraud piece, right? And this was, I think, pertaining to, I think the removal from board or something like that was there, and we did not have a board majority. I think that was where this conversation happened. And then, so my point of view was that tomorrow someone can create a case of fraud, and then because you have a board majority, we can get thrown out, right? So that's, I think that if I'm recollect, that is where this issue had come up. And there were stories on both sides that were there public at that point of time. One of them was a very, very public story, which he was referring to. So, but there was, so he helped us. So I understood where he came from. I said, yeah, perfectly right. You have to safeguard your interest. This is my worry. So he said, okay, this is how we can mitigate that point of view, right? So first appreciating where they come from, and obviously they are managing someone else's money. So it is not that his personal axe to grind. It's not his money. Where I can ask him to take a leap of faith. So if he's being honest to his role, then I have to understand where is that honesty coming from, and then go back and be candid about where my worries lie, and then find a middle ground. Some cases it is possible, some cases not possible. But at least then I understand what the thesis behind that conflict is coming from, and then you accept. And likewise, there were things that we felt, and I don't know, I was later told by Tanbai that they really accepted a lot of things that we brought that they had not done in other contracts. I don't know what's behind the scenes role he had to play, but I guess
Till now, it's the right now is the time.
Pankit mentioned it correctly that look, when someone's saying no or yes, there's always more of a story behind it. That what is it that they're trying to safeguard? And look, I mean, when two people are trying to get into a relationship like this, it is very clearly in their mutual interest to do that, and they would do it as long as all interests are safeguarded. So to understand where is the vulnerability and to drill down into it, to be able to sort of give them comfort in specific areas, that's all it's needed. And time helps, and thankfully we have the luxury of time, and therefore, and the fact that he was a mature entrepreneur. Anyone who was a little more hot-blooded or less deliberate about things would have balked at some of the terms and said that, look, let's just go with the other valuation, it's higher, etc. Might be straightforward terms. But the thing is, people who don't sort all those issues upfront run into them later. So the fact that you've got them out upfront, you know, there is a very clear SOP on how you go about the relationship.
Right. Can you give me an example, and I'll come to you. So I'm giving you extra time to think. So I want to understand, can you give me an example of like a real disagreement, maybe after the deal was done and then you guys sort of, so, and how you resolved it? That's more important.
Let's talk about the non-compete, and that was, we thrashed it horribly. I remember there was a shady hotel room I was stuck in, and I spent the better part of the night talking through him. He was in the US, and I was glad for the company there. So the fact that you're talking to a promoter that something very untoward has happened, attributable to him, and then he will be out of the company, and then what can he not do? The fact that he was able to step into those shoes and very clinically dissect that, okay, we will not compete in this part of the country and this part of the world, and we can launch this product after these many years. It was the mark of a person who's a true solution-led salesperson. Someone who knew exactly what to tweak to make sure, and you don't bring the personal sort of emotion into it. He wasn't Pankit the promoter then, he was Pankit almost the lawyer then, saying that in this scenario, this is how we sort of solve it. And this was the hallmark in all the situations. And, you know, businesses have ups and downs. I mean, once in a while, numbers would be a bit off during our sort of courtship period itself, right? But he was always transparent that, look, this is what it is. And whatever comes with it, we are happy to sort of consider that, right?
What about you? Is this the approach, that be transparent and say it as it is, or is there something more nuanced in it that?
I think transparency works. Because I personally feel if you are not open now, it's anyway going to come back and bite you later on. So better to be upfront and take the consequences there versus going down a path and then it leaves a bad blood, and then after that everything else will be taken with a bucket full of salt, right? That's how it is.
So trust is what really is the important currency here.
And for me, the fact that he comes back when he's in the new fund and I can still be a partner to him tells me that we have both done a good enough job to keep the trust going. Right?
That's
so I think that. I always say you don't accrue bank balances over a period of time, you accrue relationships over a period of time. And proof of the pudding was when we started Sequretek. It was those relationships that Anand had, who said, you know what, you were in Cementech, forget Cementech, in Sequretek also I'll back you, which means that he had earned that trust with that customer at that point in time, saying that, so maybe Cementech is a great company, but I trust Anand.
Correct.
And that's what you want to be at.
Yeah, that's really, all professionals also probably should aim for it, because you actually earn relationships over, the long, and careers are like a test match, since you like cricket. It's a long inning. So, talking about a new company getting backed by some of the best names in the business. So then business is also of importance. Business is what
Yeah.
keeps you awake. So, on a weekly basis, if I were to ask you, what are the top three matrices that you obsess over, which tells you that, yeah, we are on track, we will beat the milestones this quarter?
So, first is obviously revenue. Like, I mean, I would be amiss to say that. Second, we are in a people business, so attrition, costs, anything pertaining to human resources, cost of resource, attrition, that has straight impact on the ability to deliver, right? And third is specifically in the space that we are in, I have to be watchful about what's changing around me. So not a metric per se, but the ability to understand how my competitive landscape is handling a certain situation and how are we able to compete or not compete in that space, because that has a straight impact on either I have to change the story or worst case in the product itself, right? So being able to do that. So revenue and margins are the first top two, and then relevance is what I would put the third bucket in.
Right. And so, Pankit, that you operate and you said MSMEs form 90% of your customer base. Today, you are a product plus services company. You are also scaling in global markets. So, let's talk about your global ambition in the first part. And what is the biggest shift that you had to make operationally in Securetech as you went behind the global markets?
While we may come from an MSME mindset as far as who we are addressing, we cannot forget that security tends to be industry agnostic, market agnostic, geography agnostic, right? That's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
So we have to be very cognizant about how and I think we spoke about it briefly earlier, about how the landscape is changing and how therefore I have to react. So if I'm creating a product or a capability for the India market, how can I make it relevant to, let's say, as narrow a segment as healthcare in the US, right? So, and the fact is we don't do any healthcare in India, but that's a market that seems to be there, has the same set of problems that an MSME out here in India has. How do I make it relevant sitting out there? First and foremost, it meant that we had to create infrastructure in the US because they can't send data back in India, right? So
it's
think
healthcare,
about,
yeah.
so the data residency laws apply. So how do you create story for that? Secondly, the space in healthcare also that we target is heavily private equity backed. They are not going to spend a lot of money behind security. So if I'm going to have a story saying that rip and replace is not going to work, so can I slide over whatever they have existing? Thirdly, where we have found traction is multi-unit retail healthcare, as I say, the hospital chains and dental clinics and so on and so forth. The security landscape is typically managed by a bunch of partners and they don't have internal talent. So how do I coexist with that ecosystem? That problem is not there in India. So how do you adjust to that thing? What is the compliance landscape? They follow HIPAA and high trust and some of those regulations. We have a different regulation out here. So while the capability may remain the same, it has to be morphed either in terms of how you present it, or how you visualize it, or how you actually deliver it. So all of those have to be taken into account when you have global aspirations. And therefore, we chose at this point of time to only focus on two markets, North America and India. North America is the single largest homogeneous market in the world. We could have gone to Southeast Asia, Middle East, Europe, Africa. These are very federated market, very dispersed market, and we don't have the very well services. So we'll work with a partner. The second element that we've started doing recently is to create a partner ecosystem. So now it's very easy when I'm talking to a customer and explaining my value proposition. I have to not dumb it down, but I have to make it simple enough for a partner to take the same message and go to a customer. It has to be translated exactly the way I would have liked to translate. So how to create that story for you, how to take it to market. So today about 15% of our revenue comes from partners, which was not there. It's hardly anything when we started this business. So that's the...
Interesting. So, as they, went after their global ambitions, were there any things from your side where you said, okay, on unit economics per se, these are the non-negotiables, or any particular advice or any asks from your end?
So life was simpler for us because as far as cybersecurity companies goes, they were a lot more mature in their unit economics and thinking than most were. Typically, there's a tolerance for a lot higher burn because the fact that they were running it as almost grown-ups, their margins were good and getting better. So there were some expectations, but we knew that, look, I mean, if there were 5% here and there, it wouldn't change things. And the fact that they were almost near profitability and going to be profitable soon enough, that gives you a lot more freedom to sort of operate.
Yeah. So really, you were like, I've got a good company already, and I
Yes.
don't really. Yeah. Okay. So Pankit, let's talk about a little bit of pivots, because you today are a much larger company, still growing fast and doing well. So what are the small pivots you've made? And let's say just go back and think the first deck that you would have made for Securetech. If you were to do this today, what it will look like?
I don't like my first deck.
That's why I asked.
Terrible looking deck it was. I wouldn't have put money in my own company, but that's a different matter altogether. So I guess the biggest thing that changes for you is your appreciation of how market reacts to your capability. So what looks good on a deck doesn't actually manifest itself in the market the way you think about it. And sometimes, and I'll talk about this pivot thing, sometimes initial success in a specific area doesn't mean that that's what market is actually looking for. So we as entrepreneurs get blinded by a few wins, and you feel that you got it, but that may have been a specific need, or just you were lucky to kind of close it. So so let's say we have an identity governance product that is doing exceptionally well right now, but when we started it, it had a very different thesis of how we had looked at it, the way the product was built, architected, and we went and clacked HDFC and Morgan Stanley and like big names. I mean, if you could sell it to them, you could sell it to anyone. But it was purely suited to large enterprises, the way they were thinking. The cost structure, because my product was X, the underlying infrastructure that was needed to run it was 2X. No MSME is going to touch it, right? So while it may have made my product easy to implement, it was creating a huge TCO for a customer. It meant for us to re-architect the complete product. And that's what you're seeing. So pivots a lot of time come after you build something. And there's one pivot that we did on the training side of the house. So we hire a bunch of fresh talent, and we have our own training curriculum. We felt, oh, it's a great idea for us to plant a training school, because hey, we will get some money there, and that talent also comes to us, and they would have learned from our thing. But we realized two things. One, it's a B2C business. We don't understand B2C. We are a B2B company. You suddenly have 100 kids wanting jobs. We are not like having hundreds of people. That creates dissatisfaction in the market. So it took us about 8-9 months to figure out that we kind of
that is not for us.
Yeah, gracefully exited that business. So there are things like that which may seem very right
or easy to do.
Yeah, but may not be right for you. So likewise, there's so many things that we figured out that may not have been the most smart move in hindsight. But I guess if someone would have told you also, I don't know whether you would have heard it. Because
you would still go ahead and try it out.
You have to make your own mistakes is what I say.
Well, that's what makes an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think we've spoken enough serious stuff, and we should like take it a little bit easy and get into our rapid fire mode, and let's see if three of us can. Okay.
All right, the guy's gone. Okay,
let me try. How did you do that? I cannot do that.
This one is going to him then. Okay, good.
Okay, so I'm going to alternate, or probably you can answer, both of you can answer. That's okay. So I will start with you, and I will come with you the same question, so you get time to prepare.
Thank you.
So Pankit, what's your one everyday habit or a ritual that immediately resets your mood, even if you're having like a bad day at work?
I make my cup of tea in the morning. I sit on the swing and I'll have it, sip it. I've been doing it for the last 32 years.
Oh, wow.
I love my cup of tea made by me and on the swing. US or India. I had a swing in the US outside at -20 also. I'll put up a jacket. I'll sit, have a cup of tea and go.
I do this.
Yeah.
This is my morning ritual as well.
Lovely.
Yeah. I need to sit with my dog, Hodor, and have chai. What about you? You cannot take this answer. Now you have to think of.
I have the absolute opposite. I start my day with absolute chaos, which is my two kids, 2 years old and 4-year-old. And by the time I spent an hour with them in the morning, I know what I'm getting into the day for. I mean, they absolutely center you, and life has to revolve around it. Everything else is small potatoes.
And okay, so now I'll ask you the second one as well, so that I get more juicy probably answer out of you.
He thought through this one.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the one harmless red flag that you notice immediately in a founder when they meet you, let's say for the first time?
Yeah, you're not gonna like the answer, but I absolutely care about the shoes they wear, the watch they wear, the car they drive. I mean, they can seem harmless, but sometimes it just indicates that the promoter has aspirations or habits which may not be compatible with ours, right? So I
Interesting.
care about those things a lot.
I am not telling him any of those things
That's why
about myself.
That's why I went in Ola to meet him.
Yeah. And that their office was in Andheri East at a rent which was beautiful was lovely.
Yeah, and I get it. I get it.
But yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, frugality is
Yeah.
a concept that has to be there. You are playing is probably a strong word, but you're playing with someone else's money. And then
Any
giving
any
like
such harmless red flag you have when you meet a VC?
generally if in the first conversation, and I don't want to sound privileged in some sense, if it's an analyst that comes up, right, in the first conversation, tends to put me off because so are they just fishing to? So they have a quota to meet. I spoke to 50 companies, and you are the 51st company, so my day is done.
Correct.
Versus a serious conversation, right? So early days I understood we were also fishing, they were also fishing, but now at least I can think that if that's how they see my time, then may not be the best place for me to be. Nothing. I mean, that's just my perspective.
No, and one should respect their own time. Then only you will get that respect. Okay, so what's the most unusual cybersecurity incident or a request you've ever got from a customer which completely blew your mind? That what is that? How do I solve?
So not a customer, but an incident. I was talking to a Supreme Court lawyer, and she mentioned about a deepfake case that happened with one of her clients. The client was traveling to Dubai. There's this India Global Forum, some event that happens. And the CEO does a WhatsApp video call to the CFO in India.
Oh my God.
And you can see it was in Atlantis, so you can see the pink pillars and the IGF logo, and we have a conversation, talk about business and all of the things. And at the end, he says he needs to transfer some money, so 1.5 crores or something he transferred. And that got done. The CEO comes back after a week, and the CFO says, okay, that money I transferred. Okay, so what do you want to do? He says, what money? I never called you.
Oh.
So there's deepfake and there's this deepfake. This was like, just blew my mind away. Think about it, so much of intel that they had to be able to replicate that, the CEO's face, the mannerism, the location. It just blew my mind out.
Wow, that did blow my mind. So for you, I have a different question because I am not giving you enough time. So tell me a piece of advice that somebody gave you, which turned out to be completely wrong. You wished you hadn't followed it.
Oftentimes private equity venture folks talk about TAM, right? And what I've realized is that if you're early to the story, you make a lot of money and the TAM is never visible. So you have to go with the promoter's instinct. If a smart person is applying their mind to a big problem, they'll figure out TAM at some point.
Okay.
So some of those rules are meant to be broken. You learn them and then you learn when to break them.
You learn them to break them, I think.
Very good one.
So, okay, what's the easiest way to earn your trust then?
Yeah, there's easy and there's fast. The easiest way takes a long time, which is just deliver on what you're saying you'll deliver.
Correct.
Do this over a period and there you have it, right? The fastest way is come in well referenced. If 3 people I absolutely trust tell me that this person's trustworthy, the bar starts higher and then you can work down or up. I mean, it's up to you. But it's easier that way. And that's why oftentimes you see deals getting closed through warm reference because it's a shorthand for trust.
Yeah. And faster way would be come by Ola.
Yeah, that works. Yes.
Always work.
Okay. So, coming back to what we were talking about, your journey and your involvement in is, let's talk about certain uncertain months, whether Sequretek was in its early days, yet to be launched. There must have been some moments where, you thought, what am I doing? Is it going to be right? Emotionally and financially, both ways, So who held you up during those days or months or phases? If you can talk about that.
So lucky to have a co-founder that makes a huge difference. I always say, it's lonely at top, but it is very lonely when things are not going well. Right? So you need to have a circle of trust. Having a co-founder makes a huge difference. Second, I've been blessed to have a community of entrepreneurs, whether through Ascent or now through Stanford Seed, that really keep you grounded. So people to share. And last but not the least, there are some amazing investors. I actually should not call them investors. They were investors. They have completely become friends.
Now they're partners.
Completely. There's always this parda hai, parda hai, right? You kind of say something because guarded
Yeah.
with him or with Bhaskar or
Yeah.
Anil or Meherbai or Narayan and NSFO.
Huh.
I'm just complete transparent. They
That's
know
good.
everything that happens
As it
personally
happens. Mm.
and at the company, right?
Yeah.
So to have I'm blessed to have someone like that. So people talk about horror stories of how things panned out after they raised money. I actually have none.
That's good.
I have none.
Yeah, that's a rare thing. And I think it says as much about you and also about the investors that you've got on your, cap
Cap table,
table.
yeah, I agree.
Piyush, while you are a seasoned VC, you are also an entrepreneur as you start your,
Yeah.
new fund. So far, what has that journey been like? Have there been difficult moments? Have there been moments where you're thinking, have I taken the right step? Can you talk about Piyush, the entrepreneur, for a second?
So at Umedyar, we used to have a investing thesis called ease of doing business.
Huh.
And I always felt it was right here.
Huh.
And then when you launch your own thing and you realize you need a GST number to get a lease and a lease to get a GST number, life comes at you fast, right?
Yeah.
And then you realize that, look, you're selling every day, selling to people to come onto your team, retaining them, selling to LPs a vision of a fund one,
Correct.
and selling to promoters that, look, we are well funded, don't worry about it, right?
Yeah.
So, and like Pankit said, I mean, having your ecosystem helps,
Yeah.
being transparent helps, being deliberate about who you choose as your investor, employee, or partner helps.
Correct.
So I've realized that, look, I mean, keep life simple, take tough calls early rather than letting it blow in your face later. But yeah, I mean, it's a lovely time to be operating in India. I think there's a lot of opportunities people haven't tapped.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about in the beginning, look at the mid-market space in India, not getting as much love as it should.
Yeah.
Venture attracts a lot of interest,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of money to be made in spaces like this. And once you've delivered for a year or two, then people see the proof of the pudding and they build trust, and then the whole thing compounds from there.
And what about you, Pankit? Let's say by 2030, I think we'll see a lot of MSMEs becoming digitally confident, secure. What does that future look like to you? Do you think that's nearby now?
One is more of the same, which is the MSME side.
Huh.
Second, we've made some initial forays into government, and I'm seeing very good signs of that business taking off, conversations happening. So government, I expect to be a substantial part of our business as we go along. Same thing is coming out to be true in the US also, the US government piece. So MSME, we will continue doing that. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
But we are finding other avenues as well, which are equally lucrative and will serve the purpose of a better nation. At the end, if the government is secure, then rest everything falls
Correct.
into place.
And will also give you the growth as well in
Yeah.
your own respective business, because MSME is one base you've cracked and you've
Yeah.
understood what they need and
Yeah.
how they need it. And this is now a new revenue
Yeah.
stream opening up. Interesting. So let's talk about this for a sec. What do you think is working well for Securetech in 2025, whether it's term of revenue, GTM, product, and what is the future outlook? What is the immediate future outlook of 2026 looking like?
So what's working well is we have an amazingly crafted new product, CTEM, that's finding traction. I can almost put myself back in 2021 with the whole Percept XDR and SIEM. That journey today is more than half of our business. I'm personally bullish that what CTEM is today is what XDR SIEM was there then. So it kind of became, it was just a period when this whole SIEM XDR story was taking off the market, and we had come out with this, and this whole boom that we saw behind it came out of that. CTEM is my personal belief because it solves a fundamental gap that is there in security of visibility, enterprise-wide visibility. So I think that's one piece that I'm very bullish about. And the second piece in 2026, as I said, one is government as a business, I think will be a substantial part of our revenue base, and US as well. So these two would be the other two fulcrums in the next 12 months.
This is where you'll double down on, probably. Yeah. Right. Piyush, I want to bring you in this and ask you that if there is one thing that you hope companies like Securetech, tech builders like Pankit, should leave for the new generation to sort of pick it up from, what would that point be, or what would that legacy, so to speak, should be?
Well, actually, Pankit alluded to that in the beginning, that there was no trodden path for people to follow.
Yeah.
The fact that you can build for India and leverage that tech to sort of cater to maybe the government or customers outside. I think what would be lovely for me to see is that as and when Securetech sort of really breaks out, people follow that path. They look at it and say that, look, we can do something similar. the ecosystem builds up. For me,
Right.
that is the most rewarding thing.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that in terms of, as tech builder yourself, what would you like to see the new generation of entrepreneurs?
More product companies. We badly need more product companies. We have to create IP in this country. We can't be servicing someone else's vision and dreams. But that's what ended up happening.
Yeah.
With so much of talent, if you could really make a difference, that's the difference that one can make, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good note to sort of end our conversation on. So thank you, gentlemen, Pankit, Piyush, for making the time today and coming down to the studio. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
This is the Zero to Scale podcast. If you found this conversation useful, hit subscribe and share it with someone who will value it.